He's 101 years young. He served in World War II at the Battle of the Bulge and was also a POW. So it is my great honor and my pleasure to please welcome Glenn Beville. I had a wonderful experience earlier this week in having an opportunity to speak with him. And my God, I am so impressed. I wish that everyone in this community could hear this gentleman speak. So, why don't you have a seat and tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience, please.
I do want to say that from Webster, when I took the honor flight to go to Washington, it was the last time that the government was shut down, and when we got there was two or three busloads of us. We just took the barricades down and went around, and then Congressman Webster was the only one that came out and welcomed us, and we always appreciated that. I hope that I can remember all the things, the one I forget quite often. But I was born in the big city of Waldo, and probably several of you have gotten tickets. I entered the Army in 1944, and I was sent to Camp Archer, Texas for 16 weeks of training. They had hired me, I was supposed to be a company clerk, but I had made high enough scores on my ABCT test that I qualified for OCS, or Army Specialized Training. Well, I said, I think I'll go to college for ASTD, and they sent me to St. Bonaventure College, where we started, and I lasted about a month, and I figured I didn't have anything. They started right off in higher math, and I didn't have anything but geometry, so my buddy and I joined, we hitchhiked to Buffalo, New York, and changed over to the Air Corps. So sent for basic training in the Air Corps. And they said, no, there's too many people want to be pilots, we're going to make a bombardier out of you. So they sent me to Seymour Field, Arizona. I'm in Indiana. And we was there about 4 weeks, and they said, welcome to the infantry. We're going to the 106th Division, which is trained in Louisiana, was based in Camp Atterbury, Indiana. And it was just before D-Day, and they needed all the replacements they could have, because they knew they were going to lose a lot of men. So they took almost all of the non-coms and officers that were trained out of the 106th. And then they took all of the people that was in the Army Specialized Training and in the Air Corps, and said you're now in the infantry. And that's how I'm becoming 106. We had about 3 months training there at Camp Atterbury, and then they shipped us to Camp Marseilles in New York, and we caught Aquitania over to England. We were in England for about all of the month of November, and trained there, and then they shipped us over to France. We landed in France on December the 5th. They trucked us across France, night and day, and we wound up in St. Vit, was a major city for the headquarters of the 106th Division. I was in Company K of the 3rd Division, and we were on the south end of the line. When we moved in there, we got to the I got to the front line on December 11th. They issued us 1 clip of ammunition, 8 rounds. We had no bayonet, no grenades. That was all we had. The general said that the Germans were defeated, and they were just waiting for winter to kind of slow down so that they could take over. Well, right here I want to say that the generals cost a lot of men's lives, and a lot of men were captured and died in captivity. They were told several times that there was a big buildup on the other side, and they did not pay any attention to it. And Eisenhower and Bradley and all them went to a banquet the night of the 15th. On December the 16th, we were just inside Germany, next to the Siegfried line. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, but we all said all hell broke loose. They started playing loud music, flashlights, lights on the skies, different colors, and shooting screaming babies, which is horrible noise and everything, and they attacked us. I was in Company K, but the night before, on the 15th, the Company L sergeant came over and said, "We sent some men out on patrol, we need some replacements." So my buddy volunteered that we would go over there. A squad of us was in this house, and we went out 2 at a time and stood guard outside. And we were there during the night, and then the next morning was December 16th. And about 8 o'clock they started, and we had an invasion of about a squad or 2. We all came out of the house we were in and went and repelled that squad of about 15 or so, and chased them back in. When we jumped into the trenches it dug, they had water in them and it had frozen over. So we broke through the ice and the water was over our boots. But we stayed out there about an hour and no one else came, so the sergeant said we could go back in bring out the water of our stocks and things. So that's why I got forfeit and fee. About 11 o'clock, there was a large group of about 40 to 50 that charged us. Well, we used part of our ammunition in the morning. And so as we went back out and as we took out a few of them and then run out of ammunition, we were not able to show most all of the rest of the crew, the squad. And there was nothing else to do, and they overrun us. And then they made us prisoners, but the rest of the companies came and charged them, and my company was able to survive, and they were able to kind of pull back, and the 423rd and the 422nd was completely wiped out. So in my 424th, they had to go in another division. The worst part of the Battle of the Bulge, the 423rd, and was right in the middle of the charge. The Germans had everything that they had, Panzers, SS troops, and anything that they thought they was going to break through the lines and go straight in and take Antwerp and capture the British, and that was in the war because they would take England and we had no place to go. But the two divisions fought like heck with what they had. We had just gotten there, like I said, on the 5th and the 11th, and we replaced the 28th Division. Excuse me, the 2nd Division. And they were supposed to leave all their guns and heavy mortars and things like that, but they took them all, and the 106 didn't have very much to fight. The colonels for the two regiments that was hit right in the middle, they fought with everything they have. They run out of ammunition. Their lines to back to the artillery, it was all destroyed, and they couldn't get artillery. So the two colonels that commanded the regiment says, I'm not going to let all of my men just get slaughtered, but they had nothing to fight with, so they surrendered. But we fought like heck with what we have, but didn't have that. When I got captured, they carried us to the Siegfried line. Some of the Germans that was injured, we had to carry them back to the Siegfried line. We spent the night there. The next day they marched us to Prüm, Germany. And we sat on the side of the hill till midnight, and then we loaded in the boxcars. They called them 40 and 8. The boxcars could hold 40 men or 8 horses. They put between 60 and 80 men in each one of those boxcars and moved us south to I can't think of the name now, but anyway, they only traveled at night, they wouldn't let you out, and, you know, we had nothing to eat and nothing to drink, but, we still had to go to the bathroom, and we had to, kind of get in the corner, and we were there for, 3 days before we got to Leesburg. They took us out at Leesburg, and, we got there at night, and the British always bombed at night. The Americans bombed in the daytime, and the British come and bombed the rail yard and hit some of the prisoner of war. I think it killed several of them, and some of them got out, but they got really captured them again. So then we stayed in Leesburg for over the New Year's, because I remember we were singing Christmas songs there, and they put us in the stockyard, and dirt floors and no heat, but over Christmas we all started singing Christmas carols, and the Germans would join in with us, but then they put us on the train again and sent us in the middle of Germany. The one thing I remember about that trip was about a day after we was on the train, they stopped the train, and they had us all unload and get on in the street there, and they said, okay, take off all your clothes, your shoes and everything, and pile them right in one place. And then they marched us down the road to this building that had no windows in it. And we didn't know exactly what was going on. And of course we thought about what they was doing to the Jews. And we got inside, there was pipes coming out of the wall. And we were afraid we was going to be gassed and killed. Of course, we started praying, and all of a sudden they turned on cold water so we could take a shower. Then they reloaded us back and carried us to, I went to Stalag 3A in Luckenwalde, which was about 40 miles south of Berlin. Then we was there a few days, then they sent us out on work camps, and I went to one that was about 300 Americans at Wunsdorf, and we did most anything that they wanted to do. We dug tank traps, we chipped cement off a block so they could reuse it where they'd been bombed on it, and tore up the buildings. We had to do that, and finally that's what they had places where you take load of coke into boxcars or V-shaped things that you had to throw them way up. And if you made a mistake, they would hit you with a rifle butt, it got knocked off one time and down into the railroad, but I had to get up and keep on going. They made us work every day, and our one meal a day was at evening, and that was either rutabaga soup or grass soup, whatever we call it, the tops of the rutabagas or whatever. We got that once a day. The one thing that helped us in this area, the camp commandant, and there was over 300, he had been Max Millen's sparring partner when he came to the United States. So while we was there, Max Millen came out of his division, so we got to see him. But and he did not allow any, as long as he was close, he didn't allow him to knock us around. But whenever we was off on a job, he couldn't see us, so we got some rough treatment. I remember that on March 15th, they took me and my buddy to come with us, and we went, and anyway, we had to move some furniture up from Roosevelt to Berlin, and this was March 15th. When we got to Berlin, we unloaded the furniture and got ready to come back to Roosdorf, and had the sirens went off, so we had to go into a bomb shelter. And when we got in there, there were the two of us in the yard, and when the other Germans come in there, they saw we had our American uniforms. They started to come on, let's kill them. And the guard, thankfully, he said, if I don't take them back, they'll kill me. So we were able to get out. That was March 15th, and I thought, well, I hadn't paid my income tax when that's anyway, we got back. Finally, I got yellow jaundice, and I couldn't work, so they sent me back to the big camp at Lokenvalde. And we stayed there, and then finally the Russians came and chased the Germans away. But the Russians put guards around us just like the Germans had. And we were there for 5 days, and the Russians didn't defeat us at all. And finally the Americans from Magdeburg, I was on the Elbe River, and the Russians said, you can't come across the Elbe River. So we were about 40 miles from Magdeburg, so they sent a bunch of trucks and ambulances over to Lokenvalde to pick up their prisoners, and the Russians said, no, you can't take any of these prisoners unless you bring us a German prisoner. A Russian prisoner. And so, but they did let those that was in sick bay get in the ambulance and go back. That was on May 22nd. We, at the time when I got back, they scared us. They said, take off all your clothes and socks and shoes and everything and throw it in the barrels. Because we've been wearing the same thing since we got captured. So they poured gas on it and burned them up. But And I remember they said you could take a shower or take a tub bath, and we all decided we'd just take a tub bath. And it was so nice to get in hot water and get clean once again. We had stayed at Magdeburg there for a couple of days, and plane would come and take to Camp Lucky Strike or to another place that gets you checked out so you could come home. And they had numbers that you had, and they called you numbers, you would catch a flight. Well, I had to go to the bathroom, so I went, and while I was in the bathroom, they called out my number, and I wasn't there, so they called somebody else. I said, whoa, I'm talking, to go. Well, the plane went to the other end of the runway, and as it started off now, halfway the runway, one of the wheels collapsed. I said, well, I was lucky. I didn't get in that. So I called the next plane to Paris, France, and because I had to have a tooth pulled, and I had to, but I wanted to back up a little bit. When I got to Magdeburg, they weighed me. I weighed 143 pounds when I was went into service, and when they paid me in Magdeburg after 4.5 months, I weighed 83 pounds.
Wow.
And so they wanted to feed us everything they could, but we hadn't eaten enough, and it just, I remember it filled up my mess kit with a lot of food, and I tried to eat it. And, the German kids was all around the edge of the fence wanting food, so us POWs just almost gave them all that they'd given us, because we couldn't eat very much. And I was going back to the United States, to Paris, to Boston. Then we took a plane from Boston to South, and about 8 of us prisoners of war, and dropped one off in West Virginia, and one in Virginia, and 2 in Tennessee, and a couple of us left was in Georgia, and they sent us to hospital in South Georgia, and my parents didn't have a phone, so the only way I could contact them was from a telegram. So they said I wouldn't be in there very long before I'd be going to Daytona Welch Convalescent Hospital for 90 days. So when they finally moved me to Daytona, well, my mother came over to see me, and my father was a railroad man, and he had to go out on a job, so he wasn't able to come. But the thing about it, they got one, they were notified after about 60 days that I was missing in action. That's all the government told them. I sent them, they allowed us to write a little card and said that I was a POW. When it showed up, somebody, the lady that worked in the post office said, here's a card from Glenn Beville, and the postmaster says, let me see it. he got it, so I'm going to carry this directly to, so he carried it, hand delivered it to my mother. The basis of all of this, Battle of the Bulge, was that we were unprepared, we didn't have clothes, winter clothes. We were just stuck up there. We had not enough ammunition, and the generals did not pay attention, and there was a lot of good men that got killed, and there was a lot of us that got captured, and didn't have anything else to fight with. Like, we run out of ammunition, so there wasn't anything we could do, and then we were overrun. So I feel very hard against the generals that allowed all that to happen. And I came back and went to the University of Florida under the GI Bill, so I've had a great life since then. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I don't have a question. I just would think it would be interesting for them to hear how your 106 was treated. It reminded me of Vietnam when the guys came back from there, how they blamed you and called you cowards and that kind of thing.
I'm not quite sure I understand it. We had
When you were telling me the 106, that they were calling you cowards, but you didn't, because you didn't have any equipment. The two colonels that we had in the two regiments, the 422nd and the 423rd, said that their people didn't have anything to fight with, or very little, and no artillery support, and so they made the decision that I'm not going to have my men just murdered because we can't keep on trying to fight. And so that saved a lot of lives. But by the way, the second, we replaced the 2nd Division, and they took all their heavy equipment. I think I just said that. And we had no machine guns, we had no mortars and things. So the two colonels said it would be a slaughter if I don't do it. And of course, it got out that the two regiments had surrendered, so we were all considered cowards and we didn't want to fight and all of that. So it was a difficult status for people from 106. So for a long time we didn't talk about it. But then I went over there on the 50th anniversary and I found out what really happened. And then I said, well, we weren't cowards after all. We fought with all we had, and the colonel said, I'm not going to have men just slaughtered.
In your darkest time, what kept you going?
I have to think that my parents was the greatest parents you could have, and a lot would have been a Christian, and I put my faith in the Lord, and most of us that was there realized that there's a greater power that saved us, and He could save us again and get us back home.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free. Okay.
Did you know Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Emmett? POWs here in our community? No?
No, we inquired, yeah. How long were you held in captivity?
I was a prisoner for about, almost 5 months. And I don't know if I said that, I went from 143 to 83.
So that's not a diet plan that you would recommend? Huh? That's not a diet plan you would recommend?
I don't recommend newspapers. I've been married twice, and I told both of my wives, I said, I do not allow, thank you, Jeff, I do not allow rutabagas in my house.
And you mentioned the other day that you really didn't have much meat, but you did have a little bit when you were a POW. You didn't have any meat?
No, well, yes, we did have meat, and that when we had the tops of the rutabagas and the turnips and everything, that had a little meat with it, with the worms that was in there that we didn't like. So we call that our meat.
That's the protein, huh?
Very, very delicious.
Protein.
Does anyone else have any questions, please? One in the back, yes.
Do you feel now that you are a hero?
The question was, do you feel now that you were a hero?
No, ma'am. I feel that I was one of the many young Americans that went and wanted to help defeat Hitler and Japan. I do not feel I was I was just one of the boys. Judge Brian Wilkie from Eustis, is a district judge, has written a book about the 106th, and it was about the 423rd, which was the one that hit so bad. And the name of the book is Boys, Just Boys. If you're ever interested, you might pick that up and read it. I don't know if it's in the library yet, but you could find a copy of it.
And if you had a message for today's youth, what would that be?
I would say you need to, I would almost say universal military training. I think you ought to go and serve at least one pinch, or whatever you may call it, in service to show that you're going to be fighting for the United States. I think service was a great thing, and it teaches you a lot of things you don't normally get out when you have to do certain things at certain times, and you learn a lot when you get into service. And I'm suggesting I'd almost like to see universal military training for everybody.
Does anyone else? Yes, sir.
Was there any reason given to you that you was only given one clip?
Was there any reason that they gave you that they only allowed you to have one clip of ammunition?
The main reason was that they had exhausted most of their ammunition, grenades and all of that, coming when it came across France and pushed the Germans back to Germany. And they had used everything, almost everything that was been used up. And with the exception the 2nd Division, and
some guns and ammunition and everything. And, they were supposed to leave their machine guns and BARs, but they took them back, took their ammunition back. So, like I said, I only had that one clip. And that's what my partner had to. It was a complete follow-up by our echelon. And
Wow.
they get a lot of praise about saving the world, but they sure cost a lot of lives when they didn't pay attention to what was going on.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Did your buddy come home with you?
Did
His buddy,
his friend,
his friend?
did your friend come home with you?
Yes, we got separated in small camps. I think he came back, he got yellow jaundice too, I found out. And he came back to look involved and got home. I was talking with Judge Wilkie, and that wrote the book, and I said, could you find out if my friend came back? And of course, he had gone to St. Louis to where all the workers are. And he came back, and I says, his name is Taylor from Andersonville, or Anderson from Taylorfield. I don't know which one. So he looked him up when he come back. He found out that he had come back, and he was from Andersonville. So he on his way back from St. Louis, he went by and he found the widow, because Taylor had passed away, and she called me on the phone, and we talked for about 20 minutes, and she said, Taylor, I forget what the first name is, had never talked about it, and they didn't know anything about it. And so she was so happy to talk to me, and I talked to her daughter, and we've been very close since then. He's living, but he passed away.
Any other questions, please? Well, we want to certainly thank you for coming today. We salute you, and we wish you nothing but the best. And it was quite an honor.
Don't stuck on my hero. I was just one of the GIs that went and did. It was an honor to serve, and I'd serve again if they let me.